And we are live. Once again, it is the Field of 68 Best Bets podcast and Best Bets live stream. My name is Rob Dauster. The gentleman you see on the other side of me is the one and only Jeffrey Goodman. Jeff.
Yeah.
Basketball last night. We got two Final Four teams.
I know.
There. We got Baylor. We got Houston.
Yeah.
What do you got for me, Jeff? How you doing?
You know, obviously, I don't think either surprised us going into the night. Oregon State looked to have zero chance of winning that game, and all of a sudden it climbed back from, I think it was 34-17, climbed back, tied it at 55, and then kind of ran out of gas at that point. But, man, that zone, that 1-3-1 with the big boy at the top, they could not figure it out. Like, it was comical to watch them. And I think part of it was they were trying to take the air out of the ball too at that point because they were up 15, 12, whatever it was for most of that stretch. But that big boy, like at the top, like he's hard. His hands, he was able to get, and it's like a tight, like 1-3-1. And Houston doesn't move the ball quick enough. That was their problem watching it. Was they were throwing these like floating passes back and forth instead of, to me, if you want to expose that 1-3-1, what you have to move the ball and then attack, and they did not do that.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is when you have the 6'10 guy or the 6'9 guy with the long arms on the top of the 1-3-1, the whole point of it is to make you have to throw those looping passes. That's why you put those people in those spots on the floor. So it was, it was fun to see that comeback. And I'll tell you what, as somebody that had Oregon State +8, it was that game was much more of a sweat for me than it probably was for anybody that was not betting on that game. But yeah, Kelvin Sampson in the Final Four. And it will never not be funny to me and not be ironic to me that on the day that Kelvin Sampson qualifies for the Final Four with Houston, he did it in Indianapolis, in the state of Indiana, on the same day that Indiana announced the fourth coach that they've had since he was fired.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's an amazing story, right? I mean, he was completely run out of college basketball for making illegal phone calls for the most part. He had done it at Oklahoma. He did it again at Indiana. What's that?
Think about that for a second. He was out of college basketball for 5 years because he made too many phone calls and he sent too many text messages.
It sounds stupid.
13 years ago.
It sounds dumb, but at the time, like I broke that story. I forget where I was, but I broke that story when he resigned or was forced to resign, obviously. And at the time, it was serious. Like it was a big thing, and it was humiliating, and it was embarrassing because here's this guy, like, again, he had already done it at Oklahoma, and it basically just do it again was just it made no sense. So. He goes to the NBA. He basically gets a lifeline from Pop. Then he coaches Milwaukee and Houston as an assistant. And he's in the mix for I remember he was like the acting head coach for 20 games while Kevin McHale was out. And then he was trying to get in as an NBA head coach, but I think he knew he probably wouldn't be able to. And then Mack Rhoades. The crazy part is Mack Rhoades hires him. Mack Rhoades is now the AD at Baylor. So I talked to Mac after the game, and I said, like, how much of a hesitation did you have when you sat down and hired him? And he said, he came clean. He literally, I needed to hear that. I needed to hear he didn't blame it on anybody else. And I think ultimately, again, Mack Rhoades knew. Everybody knows Kelvin can coach. He's a Hall of Fame caliber coach. There's no doubting that. There's no disputing that. He did at Washington State. His run at Oklahoma was ridiculous. He was going to get it going. I mean, he already had got it going at Indiana. Like, he was going to keep it going at Indiana. And to me, they probably would have been in Final Fours had Kelvin not gotten fired. So, cool story. I know a lot of people don't think it's a cool story, but I believe in second chances, and I believe in second chances, not just for Kelvin Sampson, but for Quentin Grimes, for DeJohn Jarreau, for Bryson Gresham. A lot of guys on that team had second chances.
Yeah, and there's a lot of guys on Baylor that are kind of on their second chance too, right? And Davion Mitchell and Macy O'Teague and these guys, it's not like they necessarily flamed out anywhere. But there are a lot of people in this game for Baylor and Houston that are both going to be kind of on their second stop. I wonder, and maybe you know this a little better than I do, but it feels like Kelvin Sampson is something of a villain in the state of Indiana.
Yeah. Oh, he is. He is. I mean, everybody kind of wrote that story last night.
Yeah, but it also it's
a long time ago.
I get it to a point, but let's think about this for a second, right? If you're an Indiana fan, you're mad at a guy because he made too many phone calls. Like that's what brought the program down is too many phone calls. It's just it's baffling to me
that's what Matt Rhodes said. He said the rules changed too. Yeah. The rules changed.
No, it's crazy to me that that part of the reason that Indiana is in the position that they're in right now still is because they made too many phone calls. It's just think about that for a second. Think how much time that you spend on the phone, how much time you text people, and that is what brought down Indiana basketball. It's just it's crazy when you think about it and where we were in the sport 13 years ago. Yeah,
well, now you've got guys going to prison for bribery.
Yeah, don't get me started on that. All right, so the team that Houston will be playing in the Final Four is the Baylor Bears. And here's my favorite thing about Baylor getting there. It's not look. I'll let you talk about how likable those guys are and how likable Scott Drew is, and the fact that it's so easy to root for those players because you know them a little bit better than I do. But I will say this: after what happened last season with the NCAA tournament getting canceled, with teams having special, maybe unrepeatable seasons, it's nice to see that one of those teams is actually having a shot to kind of live out what they built. We're never going to see Dayton have a chance to win their national title. We're never going to see San Diego State get their chance to win a national title. There were teams that were having truly special seasons that are never going to be able to actually live them out. And Baylor was one of those teams that was having a year that maybe they'll never have again. And they managed to put it back together, make a run back to the Final Four and get their chance. So I'm happy for them. I'm glad to see it. And it's a good story, man. It's a great story in college basketball.
Yeah, I'm gonna listen. Scott Drew, amazing story, and nobody better to deal with in this industry than Scott Drew. I mean, I talked to Jared Butler's parents last night after the game, and I said, I'm like, give me your best, Scott Drew story. And he was just talking about, he's not just a half glass full guy. He's like 3/4, and then he was like, no, like it's full. Like this guy never has. And I talked to his wife and his kids, and I said, what's the maddest you've ever seen your dad? And they looked at me and they're like, we've never really seen him that mad. Like, imagine that. Like, how many times have you yelled at your son and sworn at your son so far?
Sworn at him, not that much. But my children are maniacs, and yes, it is very, very, very frustrating.
You raise your voice every single day to those hellions.
Yeah, but to be fair, Scott Drew never had to try to parent during a pandemic where
it wouldn't matter.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you couldn't see anybody else or get any kind of help or get any relief. So, in my defense, the circumstances are a little bit different in the Dauster.
I say pandemic or not, pandemic or not, you would still be a crazy lunatic father to those hellions that you have in the house. And I'm including Gabrielle among those hellions. Anyway,
so we had a comment pop up. Kelvin Sampson is second on Dan Dockich's enemy list behind Goodman.
I don't think so. I'm not that high. I mean, I know I take shots at him left and right on Twitter, but I don't think I'm that high. And he deserves all the shots. Trust me, they are warranted. And yes, Kelvin, here's the crazy part. Dockich kills Kelvin. Kelvin gave him a lifeline. Mm-hmm. Like, he was out of basketball at that point. Kelvin gave him a lifeline and made him an assistant coach. Like, crazy. And he kills him for it. And it's like, dude, really? Like, have some loyalty. Have some loyalty in your life. Anyway. So Baylor, Davion Mitchell was fantastic. I mean, fantastic last night. Like, Maceo made some huge shots down the stretch, but without Davion on both ends of the court, and even playing with foul trouble, like, he's just got that gear. he can, and his hands on defense, watching him in person even more over the last couple weeks here, like his hands are so quick. He's so big and strong. He's got a gear. He can shoot it now. There's not much that dude can't do. I think he's going to be a better player at the next level than we even think.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've said all along, I thought that he needs to be a first round pick. I've gotten to the point where if he falls out of the top 20, I will be shocked, and I would strongly consider him in the lottery. Like I don't know how many point guards there are in this draft that I can confidently say will be better pros than Davion Mitchell. And you're right. It's the ability that he has to go from 0 to 60, so to speak. Like his first step, and he's at top speed. You know, there was one drive last night, and I did a little clip of it on Twitter, where what they were basically doing was they put 3 shooters around the floor. They put Davion Mitchell out, at the top of the key, and they brought Chama Chachua out to set a screen for him. And they opened up a lane to his left because he had Jared Butler in the corner, and created all that space in the paint because you had all those shooters. And he basically takes 2 dribbles and lays it up like this, and it's probably like 1.2 seconds from the point that he started to drive to where the layup is going in. And it's just, there's nothing you can do about that. I don't know how you guard that. I have no idea how you stop that. When he decides, I want to get to the rim, I don't know what you can do to keep him from getting to the rim beyond throwing 3 guys in front.
Yeah, no, he's really fun to watch, and they are. And I thought the big difference last night, Rob, their bigs were good last night. Finally, Baylor, Jonathan Chalma Chachua. Hopefully I got it right, but I screwed up.
You did.
All right, I'm not as bad. Vital tried it, and I'm not. Listen, I don't feel bad about screwing it up when his own teammate doesn't even know what it starts with. Davion Mitchell.
Yeah, we got Davion on that.
We got to get that clip back out there. Like that should be like an everyday clip for Everyday John to hear Davion Mitchell try to pronounce his name. But Everyday John was terrific last night. He finally looked like the pre-pause Everyday John, didn't he?
Yeah, well, it's because it was the perfect matchup for him, right? Because, I mean, Justin Smith isn't going to be posting anybody up. They're not going to be running anything too complicated with him. It's basically like, okay, Justin Smith, go out there and run around and be super athletic. And that's basically what Chama Chachua is really, really good at. The block, he had one play late in the second half where he came out of nowhere to pin a shot on the backboard, grabbed the rebound as he was falling down, and managed before he fell out of bounds to flip it to there were 3 Arkansas guys around him. As he's falling out of bounds, just flip it to the one Baylor guy under the basket. It was an unbelievable play. And when he's doing things like that, oh, man. And the crazy part is Davion Mitchell was in foul trouble for most of the first half, right? I don't think that we saw the best Davion Mitchell defensively in the second half because he was trying to make sure that he didn't pick up his 4th foul. Mark Vital, played 2 minutes in the second half.
I know. He was in foul trouble there. He came back in with 3, picked up his 4th immediately.
Right away. It's just like, what the fuck? He has a nasty tip.
You know why? You know why? He can't change how he plays. He has no idea how to not body somebody up when they're going up for a shot. Like he can't.
Yes, you're right. And here's the thing. And I'm going to make this plea, and I'm going to say it over and over and over and over and over again. I'm going to tag whoever I have to tag on Twitter. I'm going to have to beg whoever I need to beg. We need to get an officiating crew on that game that's going to let these dudes play. Because the thing about this matchup is both Baylor and Houston play a style and want to play a style and thrive when they're playing a style where it's almost rugby instead of basketball. And that's not a bad thing. Houston is –
there's going to be a fight during this game. I mean, seriously, there's going to be a fight. Vital and somebody.
Both of these teams play so damn hard and so damn intense and so damn physical. I don't know if you've ever seen the clips of Houston's practices, but they're basically running Oklahoma drills out there. Half their practices, okay, we're going to roll the ball out here and we're going to send 3 guys at it and no fouls are called and you're going to go try to fight each other to get that loose ball. It's so intense and it's so physical. And Houston is already a team that fouls a ton. I think that they rank 340th nationally in defensive foul rate. They foul a ton. Baylor is a team that can get called for a lot of fouls if you're not going to allow them to play and play physical and play the way that they want to play. So what I'm asking the NCAA is, both of these teams want to play that way. Can we please allow them to do it so we don't run into a situation where all of the best players in the game are sitting on the bench? Because nobody wants that.
Can't we bring like Higgins and Gaffney and Teddy V back? Like at this point, let's bring them back for this game.
Whatever it is, let's get some of these guys back that will allow these dudes to play. Because if you don't, it's. I mean, look, Martinez in the comments is exactly right. The officiating is going to dictate this game, and if they ruin it by calling a whole bunch of ticky-tack fouls, it's just. I mean, it'll suck. It'll suck. It'll really, really suck.
No, they gotta let them play. They gotta let them play.
Very real risk for this game. All right. Do we have anything else that you want to touch on outside of the Final Four games before we get into previewing tonight's slate?
Trying to think anything else. What's the line in that the early line? I haven't even looked in the Baylor.
It opened at 5. It's now down to 4.5.
Yeah, I mean that sounds about right. I don't know. I got to think about that one a little bit more this week, and we have plenty of time to talk about it, so we won't waste any time today. Let's get right into UCLA, Michigan.
Let's do it.
And Michigan favored by what, 6.5 now?
No, Matt Rivers still has it at 7, but it's shaded towards towards UCLA. So Michigan is -7, but the line the juice is -107.
Yeah, again, I just, even without Livers, I just feel like, all right, give me one spot where UCLA has the advantage over Michigan. Give me one. Give me one area. Give me one spot. Can you?
I mean, there's better shot makers on UCLA. There's guys that I think can create on their own. Like part of the reason, so here's my take on UCLA, Michigan. And part of the reason why I'm going to be on Michigan so heavy tonight is that I feel like what UCLA is doing is a little bit unsustainable. They've kind of made this run based off of making tough jump shots. Tough jump shots, contested pull-up shots.
Tough is like the understatement of the year.
Yes, like Jules Bernard is not going to be making step-back 25-footers over and over and over and over again. Some of the plays that Jaime Jaquez made in the Elite or in the Sweet 16 game are just things that were incredible plays that you don't want to have to bank on over and over and over again. Johnny Juzang has made a ton of difficult shots throughout this tournament. And I feel like at this point, like part of the reason why UCLA is here is because they had to play Alabama in a game where Alabama shot 11 for 25 from the free throw line. And there were a couple of, let's just say, questionable calls when it comes to the way that charges and whatnot were officiated. So I really, really like Michigan in the spot. And if the line's going to keep coming down, I'll play it down to 6.5. If it gets to 6, I'll play it there too. So I think Michigan wins this game by 10 or 12. I just think that they're going to be too solid defensively. And we already saw that Juwan Howard could find a way to scheme his team to get to take advantage of their most advantageous matchup against Florida State and how they got Hunter Dickinson the ball. And I think he's going to be able to do the same thing against UCLA, who I don't think is anywhere near as good defensively as Florida State is. So, I love it.
I'm with you. Listen, I'm with you. I think everybody's gotten UCLA wrong a lot over the last week or so. I know I have. I just don't know how this can continue. Again, I just, the only advantage you could say, like maybe Tiger Campbell over Mike Smith, but like Mike Smith's been pretty good. And again, it's a better matchup for Mike Smith against another smaller guard like Tiger Campbell than he's faced. Like he has struggled the last couple of games against length and athleticism, but they found a way still. He still doesn't make a ton of mistakes. Like he runs the team. He's solid. He'll make open shots once in a while. He'll drive the basket, and if they're laying off him, maybe he'll get a hoop here and there. But for the most part, he just finds his teammates. And I just don't know how UCLA can continue this. And the news that Livers is out for the year would have ordinarily said to me, like, they have no shot of winning at all. And I hope we get this Michigan-Gonzaga matchup. Like, would you agree? Like, aren't you excited about that Baylor-Houston match? Like, we got a really good Final Four matchup there. Maybe ugly. It may be an ugly game, but it's going to be a really good game, hard-fought, a war. Like, it's perfect for the Final Four.
Yes, it's perfect for the Final Four, and I hope we get that with Michigan and Gonzaga, which, let's go to that other game. The line has come all the way down. It opened at Gonzaga laying 9.5. It's down to 8 now. I would not be surprised to see it keep moving in that direction. I jumped on USC at +9.
You did.
Yeah, I did. I just think that they're going to be able to keep this thing close enough because of that. I don't know how effective Gonzaga is going to be getting out in transition against this team. And look, we talked about it the other day, and I guess we can talk about it again here. The big concern that I have is twofold. One, I think that Evan Mobley can really take away Drew Timmy's effectiveness in and around the paint. And Gonzaga has set a record this season for the highest 2-point field goal percentage, in large part due to just how effective Drew Timmy is around the basket and finishing. And I think that Evan Mobley can take that away. I also think that they're linked.
You know that they have more than Drew Timmy, right? You are aware, correct?
Yeah, but hold on. Let me finish my thought. The other part of it is one of the assistants on that USC staff is Jason Hart, who played at Syracuse and knows how to run that 2-3 zone as well as just about any assistant on the West Coast. At this point, probably better than Mike Hopkins does, at least.
He's also got more talent. He's also got a man named Evan Mobley.
Yeah, and they just have so much size and length and athleticism that they can throw into that 2-3 zone that it's going to – what it's going to come down to, I think, is how well Jalen Suggs, Andrew Nembhard, and Joel Ayayi are able to shoot from the perimeter. I really think it's just going to be that simple because what I expect USC to do is kind of shade off of Ayayi and maybe Nembhard as well. Dare those guys to make shots. Yeah. And I think the counter is going to end up being who does Few put at the high post and how does he create some of the open looks and whether or not he can get some clean looks for Corey Kispert. But I really do think it's going to come down to whether or not Gonzaga can shoot well enough to make USC come out of that zone. Because if they don't, I think it's going to be a problem for Gonzaga trying to have one of those guards defend Isaiah Mobley, because that's what you're gonna find yourself in that situation where you have a guard defending 6'10" Isaiah Mobley, which is a problem for Gonzaga defensively.
Yeah, listen, I just don't know if I trust. They're older, USC's guards, and they're Peterson's huge. I mean, he's probably every bit of 6'7". I just don't know how they're going to stay in front of Jalen Suggs. I don't know how they're going to
go with the zone. And if you're playing if you have the length to be able to play off of Nembhard and play off of Ayayi, then you can always make sure that you have two guys in front of Suggs.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to.
You can end up being.
The question is, how does Suggs handle the zone, right? Like, how does he handle it? Does he make good decisions? Does he dribble right into trouble in that zone? Like, that is going to be the key. Now, again, like, Gonzaga's got guys that can shoot the ball also, right? Like, Kispert against that zone. Ayayi, they didn't really pay attention to him last game, and he made him pay early against Creighton. Suggs has shown the propensity to be able to make shots. He's streaky, but he can make shots, especially if you give him space. They've got enough guys on that team that can make shots, and if they're doing that against the zone, I don't know how much is USC.
What's going to come down to? It's going to come down to whether or not those guys are making
right. If they are, and like I don't know how much have they played man this year? USC, do you know? You have that in Synergy?
I can bring it up. Hold on.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
They flip flop between it, but of late as they've made this run, it's been a lot more than it has been man to man.
Yeah, because it's worked.
If Gonzaga forces them to go man, then USC's toast. I don't think USC can win if they have to try to guard Gonzaga man to man. Because what's going to happen is you're going to get Isaiah Mobley on Corey Kispert, and they're just going to run run them off of all of those screens and all those down screens. So I think that would end up being a very bad matchup. We have someone in the chat saying that USC plays like 90% man.
Ellis would know. So they played a ton more zone.
92% man. It says on Synergy, it says they've only played 171 possessions of I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one. Yeah, so they've played 15% of their defensive possessions have been in zone.
Wow.
And I mean, they're significantly better in a zone than they are in a man, and that just seems low. That seems very low.
I just think if you play zone against Gonzaga, I just don't know. I mean, if you play if you play man against Gonzaga, I just don't think those guards, any of them, can stay in front of Suggs.
Yeah, you have to stay in the zone.
Well, I think you got to start in the zone, right? You got to start in the zone and just hope that they're not making shots. And again, the one good thing for USC is they've got a lot of length other than Isaiah White. Trying to think if anybody else. Oh, and Edey. Yeah, Edey, they're not the longest, but Peterson and the Mobleys. It's unbelievable what he's done with this group. Like, who would have ever thought he pulled like these 3 transfers, one from Santa Clara, one from Utah Valley, one's from West Haven, Connecticut, and throws them with the Mobleys. And like, this is what you got. Like, it's amazing to me because, again, like, these weren't like the transfers that you would shake your head at, like we did with Carlik Jones, and be like, whoa, okay, that dude is going to make an impact right away. These guys weren't that, and they've all been good. They've all been honestly way better than I expected. And but again, it starts with Evan Mobley. He's been the game changer, the second best hire, family hire over the last couple of years. Maybe this is the best. You know what? This one might be better than Cade. It could get him to a damn Final Four. You've got 2 of them. You got Isaiah and Evan, so you got 2 for hiring the dad. Plus, you're going to get a contract extension. Now, Boynton got 7 years yesterday. He made like $25 million yesterday, largely because of Cade and Ken and Cunningham.
Yeah, it was a worthwhile investment to me.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, yes, you're right. The key is going to end up being if USC is able to stay in their zone and be able to keep both of the big guys on the floor, because that's where their advantage is going to lie. So that'll be a very interesting matchup to see. That's all I got for. I'm already on USC. One thing I will be trying to do, though, is if USC jumps out to a lead, I'm going to try to snag a Gonzaga live line and middle it, because I think that Gonzaga is probably going to end up winning. So I can find a way, if I can get some like plus value on a Gonzaga money line, that would be a very interesting bet to make. So, Jeffrey, you got anything else?
No, I think that'll do it for the most part. I'm going to take the Zags, and I'm going to take the 2 favorites here. I'm going to take Michigan and the Zags, and I'm going to say that we're going to have one hell of a Final Four if that happens. Because Gonzaga, Michigan, great game. If it happens, Baylor, Houston, really good game. This is the way you want to set up, right? You want to set up with a bunch of underdogs early that move forward, that make it intriguing, and then you get the heavyweights at the end. And legitimately, if you somehow get Gonzaga, Michigan, and Baylor, you're getting the teams that we thought were the 3 best teams come.
Well, I'll tell you, if it's Gonzaga, Baylor, Michigan, Houston, I think we probably have the 4 best teams in the country in the Final Four, which is what you want.
Yeah, can't argue that. Cannot argue with that.
All right, Jeffrey, this has been fun.
All right, Robert.
We will see you guys again tonight for another